So two witnesses, presentation number 30, and we are still cruising through Revelation 11. And this is the Semyon, the elephant kicking out donkey from a building on which US flag flies. So the Semyon is set of representations. This is a very typical vision that is shown to prophets and holy men of God. So they see this vision, which is a bunch of semcions, and record it faithfully for us. Later on, either God or one of the angels would come and explain the semyon. The elephant is not really an elephant in this case. It is a representation of Republican presidential candidate who just won the elections and occupying the White House while he is kicking out a Democrat Party presidential candidate or president, outgoing president. He is kicking out of the White House. The kicking is not really kicking, it's a semyon for defeating in election. And donkey is not really donkey, it's a representation of Democrats. So the White House is the building, and US flag is additional inside. And this is how the prophets are shown. So here Daniel is shown a huge, dreadful, and terrible beast. It is the sole superpower. And this dreadful, terrible beast has 10 horns. Out of 10 horns, a little horn would spring up and uproots 3 horns. So it comes as a 11th horn. And after uprooting 3 of the horns, it becomes 8, because 7 would be left out of 10. So it becomes the eighth horn. And this 8th horn is of very great interest for Bible students, because that is the one who would kill us, the saints, the elect. And that is the chief agency that causes the huge martyrdom before the second coming in the end times. So we have this, with this background, it personally affects us. And this little horn is the power that persecutes us. It puts us under its heel. It treads down us, and it wages war against us and prevails against us for a certain given long period of time. It is called time, times, and half a time. So for that period, the true church, the saints, would be defeated by this agency of little horn. But the second coming happens and the resurrection happens. The saints would judge this little horn, will consume it and destroys it. And the kingdom, the everlasting kingdom, would be given to the saints of Most High, and they will possess it forever and ever. That is the good ending. That is the hope-filled part, that saints would possess the kingdom. But before that great good things happen, we have bad and sad times. That is time, times, and half a time. This little horn parades with its fierceness to kill every saint that he can grab off. So let's launch into the presentation. We are walking through Revelation 11, and the verse that is interested is verse 7. Verse 7, it talks about when they, that is 2 witnesses, shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascends out of the bottomless pit, that is Greek abyssos, shall make war against them, against the 2 witnesses, and shall overcome them and kill them. This is exactly similar, very similar phrase we see. The little horn does that. It makes and declares a war against the saints not two witnesses, saints, and prevails against them and kills a bunch of them. So with this, we are still exploring this verse, and we'll go through this. And here the two witnesses are killed by this beast that ascended out of bottomless pit. If you consider two witnesses to be the saints, elect, true church, then all these beasts would converge into one beast, conceptually. But if you believe that two witnesses are separate from the true church, then probably you still have two beasts doing very similar work. That's where we are. And we have 4 kingdoms of Daniel. We went through these things. And the first chapter 2 is statue kingdoms that are shown to Nebuchadnezzar, the head of gold, arms and breast of silver, that is Medo-Persian, and belly and thighs of brass, that is Greece, and 2 legs of iron, that is Rome, and feet of iron and clay, that is the future, a long period of time. The statue still stands, even though these kingdoms lost their dominion. They are like mere small empire, not empire, small countries. Like Rome became Italy, and Greece is still Italy. Medo-Persia, probably Iran or Iraq, and Babylon is most likely Iraq, whatever small countries. But Daniel 7 talks about the future kingdoms. These are BC kingdoms before Christ, and these are AD kingdoms. So we have winged lion with 2 wings of a great eagle. This is one of the modern nations. And bear with 3 ribs in its mouth. This is second modern nation, AD kingdoms. And the third is leopard with 4 wings, perhaps double the speed, agility, and military swiftness. And the fourth is monster. This is dreadful and terrible beast. This is unlike other 3. And this parallels Rome. So this is the beast that has 10 horns, out of which the little horn would come. So this is the modern nation. This is the sole surviving superpower at the time of second coming. We're coming prophetically to the very edge and end of human history. And then shortly after this, the second coming would happen, and this beast, as well as the little horn, would be decimated. They would be toast. So this is the surviving superpower. This is patterned after Rome. So coming back to this, our next slide, that is Daniel 2, we have Babylon, head of gold. This is Medo-Persia, then Greece, then Rome, and unknown beasts. And then you have kingdom of God that comes as a stone that hits the feet of the statue, and the whole statue is destroyed. But interesting features about this Daniel 2 is little horn. It comes in the time of Greece. It comes out of Greece. So the third kingdom, and then kingdom of God, actually comes during the fourth kingdom, the invisible kingdom of God, formerly inaugurated by Son of God nearly 2000 years ago. And we come to the Daniel 7. We have future AD kingdoms, and we have lion kingdom, which is modern kingdoms. So the lion with eagle's wings, and then you have bear raised on one side and 3 ribs between its teeth. And it was told to devour much flesh. So, and leopard, the 4 wings of a bird on its back, and it has 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. So it is patterned after Greece. You have a military dictator kind of guy for this leopard kingdom, modern kingdom. After his death, his country is divided into 4 parts. So he's known for his swiftness, like Alexander. Bear is like Medo-Persia, and lion is like Babylon. And then the fourth beast is patterned after Rome. It is many features of Rome. It's dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong, great iron teeth, and devoured, break in pieces, stamped residue, nails, brass nails, and it has 10 horns. This is different from Rome in the features like 10 horns. Rome does not have 10 horns. So here actually Rome has nothing to do with Little Horn. Little Horn arrived in Greece, the third kingdom. These are shadow kingdoms before Christ, and these are AD kingdoms, the real modern fulfillment. So the little horn comes on top of this from one of these 10 horns. It comes at the place of 10 horns and uproots three after it comes out. It springs up from the head of this dreadful and terrible beast. So little horn comes and you have so much details. And finally, kingdom of God comes, second coming. So we are very edge of the history of world as we see it today. And once the second coming happens, it will be a different scenario, the millennial rule, and we are familiar with those things. So the little horn would be destroyed, no doubt, but this dreadful, terrible, exceedingly strong beast would also be destroyed. It will be burnt. So both either together they are destroyed, or this dreadful beast is destroyed first, and then the little horn is actually destroyed by Christ and the saints that are coming. So these are a little bit open-ended. We can't make hard conclusions. And this little horn has several things with the little horn of shadow. Last two times we studied little horn in the shadow. Now we are coming to little horn in the reality. So it has some features of shadow, but it has a lot more additions, which the shadow does not have. So that's what we are going to explore today. It has very interesting phrases, and those phrases for the little horn would open up threads that will take to different parts of Bible. So if you take each of the phrase and the thread, you will get a bounty of treasure, of the richness of the revelation. So we will do as much as we can, because our goal is to come back to two witnesses at this point. Now, Tom asked last time about little horn. Would it be worshipped? I kind of concluded that it is not worshipped per se. It would ask people to worship the beast. That's possible. Here there's a some mystery for the little horn. It has features of beast, and also it has features of false prophet. It has both the features. So it depends on how you view how it plays. If it is behaving like beast, if it is actually beast according to God, then it would be worshipped, beast or its image. If it is false prophet, then probably not. False prophet directs men and women to worship beast directly, or to make an image to the beast and worship the image. So that's the more accurate answer to Tom's question. Let's recap what we went through for the shadow of the little horn. These are important. So we saw several points. In shadow, little horn comes out of one of the four notable horns of the Greek Empire. You have Seleucid Empire. Out of that, the little horn came in shadow. Remember, Greek Empire is the third kingdom of the statue. It grows to be exceedingly great. So it comes as a small, tiny, but it grows exceedingly great. We see that in today's discussion for the little horn that comes out of the fourth beast, that real little horn also comes as a small horn, but immediately uproots three three horns out of 10, and it grows bigger than any other horn of that dreadful and terrible beast. So this is a pattern matching between shadow and the reality, and it expands to south, east, and the pleasant. The pleasant is understood as Judea. So we were not given this in the reality. This only exists in shadow. It grows great even to the host of heaven. So here the host of heaven is understood as Son of God, Yeshua Jesus Christ. Actually, host of heaven is armies of God, and armies of God are headed by Son of God. So armies of God would refer to Israel, or Judea in this case, and it casts some of the host of the heaven to the ground. So Israelites or Judeans are thrown to the ground. That means their right standing with God is violated and jeopardized. And it casts down some of the stars of heaven to the ground. This is figuratively speaking about the true church, our covenantal relationship, and our covenantal standing with God is done away. So we were cast to the ground, we were no longer in heaven. It's stamped upon above too. So the stars of heaven is another phrase that refers to Israel primarily. Now, northern 10 tribes are gone into captivity. The only people that are left with the covenant relationship was Judah. So at this stage, when this prophecy is given to Daniel, Judah is also going into captivity, but Judeans have the right standing for several centuries from this point. They are the only covenanted people. In fact, the little horn in the form of Antiochus Epiphanes, it comes and attacks Judea. So stars of heaven, host of heaven refer to Judeans. In shadow, in reality, it refers to the true church. So this little horn comes and casts some of us down, some of the true church, down to the ground. We are no longer dwelling in heaven. It magnifies itself even to the prince of the host of heaven. This is a phrase used for Son of God, prince of host, prince of princes, prince of the armies of heaven. So all this, you have more evidence that it points to Christ. So it exalts itself even to the prince of the host of heaven. So this happened in shadow. This also happening in reality. It attacks true church. It also lifts itself up against Jesus Christ, Yeshua. These are very important pieces of information that helps us to identify the little horn. Which people or which country or which kingdom in our times that puts its face against Son of God? Which country blasphemes Son of God, Jesus Christ or Yeshua? There are not many people that do that, not many countries that would do that. It's easy to identify in a sense if you have honest, truthful examination of the modern kingdoms of this our time. It causes daily to be taken away. So the little horn comes and takes away daily to be taken away. Daily is a representation of, again, Christ. In terms of several usages of the word tamid, it refers to the lamps, it refers to the bread, it refers to sanctuary, it refers to the altars. So it's all figuratively referring to Christ. So for us, Christ and his authority and his instructions are taken away from us. So we no longer have Christ. Why? Because the little horn got us. That is the danger. The little horn, as we see, it kills us, some of us spiritually, and others it kills us physically. The physical killing of us is a little uh, dangerous, little less dangerous than the spiritual death. Spiritual death is eternal. So we have to guard against our spiritual death, and we have to uphold our spiritual life. And we don't care much about our physical life when this little horn comes and touches us. Causes the place of sanctuary to be cast down. The sanctuary is more like body of Christ, so the congregations no longer would be able to operate. It casts down the true church, true congregations, when it comes into full swing. A host was given to it against daily, so it was given a private army, armed forces, to go against the true church. Here it is tamid, and because of the transgression of the people. So when Judah was in full covenantal relationship with God, there is no mention or there is no hint of little horn ever approaching Judeans. But when the transgressions are full for the Judeans, then the little horn is sent as a judgment. Perhaps we have a lesson for us. When many people lose their fervor, lose their heat, they become Laodiceans and they become lukewarm, or there is a greater falling away, or the transgressions come to the full, or the lawlessness abounds. When that happens, the little horn would surely appear. That is the pattern we are seeing, and it will bring down lots of the things that we have seen, the sanctuary, the daily, and the lamps. We will see that more, and to cast down truth to the ground. So the gospel is no longer allowed to be preached, no longer publicly announced. So the church goes underground, obviously, when this happens in reality. But in shadow also, very similar thing happened. It cast down the truth to the ground, and it's practiced and prospered. So there's a continual growth of its influence and its power. It comes as a little guy, this little horn. It towards the end of its life cycle, it becomes a huge, humongous power, and it kills bunch of people, including true church. And there's a growth aspect in the vision, in the prophecy, and then it's 2,300 days from the daily to be taken away, abomination, desolation, and host and sanctuary trodden down. Basically, it says 2,300 days, the sanctuary would be taken down. So it does the abomination, desolation, which Christ spoke about in the Olivet prophecy. So this is the guy who does abomination, desolation. And we saw this in secular history. Let's continue the points. Sanctuary would be cleansed after this period. We have very similar pattern in the reality, that is time, times, and half a time. The people of God would be trodden down. A king of fierce countenance. So this is the explanation by the angel. So he's different from other kings, a king of fierce countenance. He's fully motivated and active, perhaps ruthless, perhaps a demonic presence with him. Understands dark sentences. He has super IQ, some help from demonic beings. So he understands secret dark things. He stands up when transgressors come to the full. So it has something to do with the falling away. Its power shall be mighty, but not by its own power. So even though this little horn is a great power, but it's not its own power. Some external agency is supplying that power. Most likely it is Satan and the demons. It is successful in what it undertakes, causes terrible destruction. It destroys mighty men as well as holy people. So true church is not the only target. It kills bunch of other people, whoever opposes its mission. By treachery, it will succeed through deceit. So it's very treacherous, lying, deceitful, and there is no loyalty and faithfulness. It is arrogant and destroys many that are unaware of its schemes. So the people who were killed by it have no clue who is killing them, why it is killing them, and they will be in total shock when they see this little horn actually killing them. After all, they thought this is a good guy. This is a God's blessed guy. After all, they held this little horn in very high esteem, and they did not tolerate anybody criticizing this little horn. That is typical Christian. Majority of Christians would fall for the little horn, and they look down upon you uh, with anger if you say anything against this little horn. So the little horn has built this deceptive clouds around itself among the people so that people can't tolerate any criticism of the little horn. It works in a secret way. Its ways are clandestine. Perhaps they have extensive spying network and exceptional secret armed forces that would silently, secretly kill people and bury the evidence. So there are several patterns. It is open-ended. It stands up against the Prince of Princes. It's somebody asked, is this Antichrist? I think last time. It is, because it is standing up against Prince of Princes, who is this Christ, Son of God. So it is an Antichrist figure. It will be broken, but not by human agency. That's what we see in the reality also. Be broken by second coming, perhaps by Christ and the resurrected saints. So we also go to the secular history here, and how the little horn happened in the history when the Antiochus Epiphanes came. Antiochus IV Epiphanes of Seleucid dynasty is believed to be the little horn. This king came up to Jerusalem pretending to be peaceful. So he came to physical Jerusalem in shadow, pretending to be peaceful. The little horn also comes to spiritual Jerusalem, heavenly Jerusalem, that is us, the true church, pretending to be peaceful. Got possession of the city by treachery. So with this pretension, by lying and manipulation, it becomes friends with true church. The true church welcomes it to be friend. That's what we see there. And then Antiochus Epiphanes, king, after entering into the city along with his armed forces, he suddenly turns and starts killing the people and taking hold of the sanctuary and the temple. So when that happened, there's a backstabbing of Judeans by Antiochus Epiphanes. The king did not spare even those who welcomely admitted him into the city. The secular history we took from Josephus, the Jewish historian, in complete works of Josephus, that is the book. Covetous inclination towards the riches that lay in the temple. So the temple, his focus is on temple, which is true church in reality. Treasures, lots of gold, ornaments of very great value. He ventured to break the league made to plunder the temple. So he breaks his own understanding with the people. He took down lampstand, that is no more gospel work. Golden altar of incense is a picture of prayers of saints. That is also taken out. Took down brazen altar. This is the open public sacrifice. And table of showbread, the true manna. It represents true manna. The teachings of Christ would no longer be openly, publicly available. took veils made up of fine linen and scarlet. The veil is the body of Christ. So the veil is also he took away from temple. This is done by Antiochus Epiphanes in the shadow. We covered this in the last presentation. Emptied secret treasures of the temple. The temple church has secret treasure. That is the hidden manna. That is, again, the teachings of Christ. It put the Judeans to great lamentation. The physical Judeans suffered enormously at the hands of Antiochus Epiphanes. So the spiritual Judeans, us, we will also suffer at the hands of this little horn in reality. Daily sacrifices were banned, which were offered according to the law. So you can no longer offer sacrifices to God, spiritual sacrifices for us. It slew some and carried captive others, including wives and children. So the little horn will kill lots of true Christians, and it will also cause us to be put into jail, carried captive. This is also confirmed in Olivet prophecy by Christ. Estimated count 10,000 by Josephus. It overthrew finest buildings and took down walls of Jerusalem. So the finest buildings, the main pillars of Jerusalem, it took down. And the walls of physical Jerusalem also he tore down. For the spiritual heavenly Jerusalem, New Jerusalem, the walls are salvation, according to the book of Isaiah. So he's also knocking down the salvation for the people of God under the new covenant. It built a garrison fortified with high walls and towers overlooking temple. So he has put a fortified garrison. So a watchdog agency was put into motion to watch the true Christians, what they are doing, where they are. So there is open garrison, the military presence, and some kind of monitoring of Christians. It brings in and institutes just a little horn. The citadel, the main tower, also housed the impious and wicked Judeans who caused great suffering to the people of God. So you have black sheep in the churches, our churches. They work with the little horn, and they become part of this watchdog to watch against us. So they would be giving information to the little horn, such a people are hiding in this house. So they are the ones who will hand over us to the authorities, to the little horn. It's exactly same description I see in Olivet prophecy. The brother would deceive brother and hand over them to the authorities. So church goes through severe persecution. Never was such persecution in the past, nor in the future. This is one-time event in the human history. King built an idol altar on the top of God's altar, so it presents an alternate worship to what is the true worship. What is true worship under New Covenant? We worship the Father in spirit and in truth. Those who are worshiping the Father in spirit and in truth are called true worshippers. So it would replace the true worship with some false worship, because Antiochus Epiphanes did exactly the same thing. He put an idol altar on top of God's altar. King offered swine on that altar. So true church would be forced to do something abomination to God, swine on that altar. He banned worship of true God, compelled serving his gods. So eventually the little horn would ban the worship of true God, and he perhaps declares Christianity as evil religion. It is the charges would be pressed against anybody who is practicing Christianity, especially true Christianity. So you will be tried under different laws at that time, perhaps sedition, perhaps some false accusation. Most of the times, Christians were martyred for the crime of insurrection, sedition. So we don't know how the laws would be framed in our times in the reality, but it is banned. The worship of true God is banned. Compelled people to build pagan temples, raise idol altars in every city and village of Judea, and offer swine every day. So this is how we see this pattern in Revelation. The false prophet causes the people to build a, an image to the beast and worship the image of the beast, and it gives pneuma or power to the image of the beast, so that image of the beast both speaks as well as kills those who do not worship the image or the beast. So here is very similar pattern. He compels some pagan temple, Judeans to worship, and spiritual Judeans would also be forced and compelled to worship this image of the beast, because Antiochus Epiphanes is like beast, is a political thing, and swine, something very offensive to God, which is abomination to God. It forces us to do that. It is like abomination, desolation. You have abomination, desolation in the shadow, and there is abomination, desolation in the reality, which Christ, by the way, warns us against abomination, desolation in Matthew 24. Some refused to honor king's instructions and suffered great punishments and torments. So there are some faithful Christians among us who would refuse these instructions, these mad rules, and they deny that and worship the true God and face the consequences, punishments and torments and torture, different torture schemes that they have to go through. Commanded them not to circumcise their sons. So Judeans were commanded by Antiochus Epiphanes, the little horn, not to circumcise their sons. And the spiritual little horn in our times would do exactly same, not physical circumcision, but circumcision of heart, our very life, circumcision of heart, our very seal and very identity. That would be tampered by the little horn. He appointed overseers to enforce his orders. So he creates lots of agencies, perhaps at state level and federal level, and they will be enforcing these laws. Anybody found, they will put in jails or kill them. Many Judeans complied either voluntarily or out of fear of penalty. So because of the lawlessness, because of the severe persecution, many Christians would lose their faith, give up. Love of many will grow cold. That's what Christ said. Best and noblest did not regard king's commands and face the consequences. So there are some true faithful elect. They would worship God and remain faithful under new covenant in reality, in spite of the consequences. Every day they went through great miseries and bitter torments. That is the life of Christians in those days when the little horn parades. They were whipped with rods, bodies torn to pieces, crucified when they are alive and still breathing. This is in shadow, something very similar we will see. It strangled women who circumcised their sons. So the churches and the church leaders would be prosecuted for circumcising their people with the truth. The spiritual circumcision of heart is truth, in spirit, in truth. Circumcised sons were hanged around neck, crucified. So whoever were circumcised in heart would also be killed. And if any sacred book of law found, it is confiscated and burnt. I don't know how it translates. Perhaps Bible is already banned by that time as an offensive and dangerous book. If anybody was found with a book, that book would be confiscated. Those who are found with it were subjected to severe punishments. So this is how little horn did in shadow. Now we are coming to reality. In reality, the little horn is backed by this dreadful and terrible beast. This is the fourth beast of Daniel 7. On this beast, there are 10 horns. Out of that, this little horn comes out and plucks immediately 3 horns. It uproots, take three horns by their roots. So it uproots them, and then remaining 7, it becomes 8. This is the little horn in the modern times, in our times. This is a reality. So let's see reality of little horn. We will go through Daniel 7. This is AD kingdoms. The terrible, dreadful beast is AD kingdom. This is patterned after Rome. We went through the features of Rome, whichever country is patterned after Rome, that is the dreadful fourth beast. This is the sole surviving superpower of the world. The other 3 beasts, which are before that, they are no longer superpowers. This is the superpower, the only unchallenged superpower when the second coming happens. So the second coming happens, and at that point, this beast would be destroyed, as well as the little horn would be destroyed. So these 2 entities, little horn as well as the beast, they prolong up to the second coming. So these are major players in the end times and the persecution of church. So Daniel 7 will start with verse 1. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and vision of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. So he got the vision, dream, and then he saw the video, heard the audio, and then he woke up and then wrote for us what he saw, what he heard. He was even allowed to interact with the people in the vision. So he's into the video. Isn't it interesting? When you watch the video, you watch it on a TV or a computer monitor, you silently watch, you're not part of that. But Daniel can penetrate into the video and interact with the people there. He grabs one of them and asks, like, what all this about? Please explain me. So that person explains to Daniel, oh, this entity is this, that beast is a different entity. So he gives lots of details. So isn't it fantastic that he is able to interact in the vision? Daniel spoke and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of heaven strove upon the great sea. And 4 great beasts, Kahe, it is pronounced as Kahe, 4 beasts, 4 Kahe came up from the sea, diverse from one from another, 4 different distinct modern kingdoms, AD kingdoms. They come one after other. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked. Which nation has a lion with eagle's wings as its original emblem? And 2 wings were plucked out, and the wings were separated from that kingdom. It is left with lion. Whatever kingdom, the modern kingdom, modern country. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon its feet as a man, and man's heart was given to it. So it's very human, man-like appearance, and perhaps more civilized of all the beasts. Verse 5, and behold, another beast like Kahe, a second Kahe, is like unto a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it has 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said, there is no they actually, it was told to arise and devour much flesh. The first one is patterned after Babylon. The second one is patterned after Medo-Persian Union. So you must find a modern nation which is also a union, and which also has a bear as its national emblem. And it is a conglomeration of two ethnic groups, and it devoured much flesh. Millions of people were killed in its regime. So it's a mass killing. So that is the second beast, patterned after Medo-Persian Union. And the third, after this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl or a bird. And the beast, Kahe, had also 4 heads, and the dominion was given to it. So it is patterned after Greece, Alexander, after him, 4 parts. And it is very swift, like a Grecian kingdom, very fast and military strategy. So, which modern kingdom has the leopard? Leopard is another name for panther. So, you can do some history research into the modern kingdoms. One has more panther. You have everywhere panther, and everywhere like leopard is concealed as panther in their vocabulary. It's very fascinating. So, but these 3 kingdoms were no longer there. Their dominion is taken out. They will just continue like non-superpowers. But the fourth guy remains as superpower rest of its tenure until the second coming happens. Christ comes and destroys. Until such time, the fourth beast would exist. And after this, I saw in the night visions, behold, a fourth beast, Kahe, dreadful and terrible, strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, stamped the residue with the feet of it, and was diverse from all the beasts, Kahe, that were before it, and had 10 horns. So it was diverse from other 3 beasts. It's in its fierceness, in its military, and its extent of influence, and its size and the complexity. Nowhere in the history of world have we seen such a huge superpower, exceedingly great, patterned after Rome. So this beast, dreadful fourth beast, in the reality has 10 horns, but the Rome does not have 10 horns. Why the little horn doesn't come out of Rome? It comes out of Greece, one kingdom before that in shadow. But here it is the fourth kingdom that gives rise to the horns. It has 10 horns. And the 10 horns, it comes out of the dreadful beast. Now, there can be 10 rulers of the king of this beast empire, or there are other 10 small kingdoms which are supporting, giving life to this dreadful beast, either financial or material resources or some kind of dependency this mega beast has on these 10 horns. Out of 10 horns, 3 would be knocked down by a new horn that comes into existence in the history. So this new horn uproots 3, and then it grows bigger and bigger. That is the little horn. That is the sinister entity at the end time. That entity also almost comes to the second coming, where it will be destroyed. So we have sole superpower, and this superpower supports the little horn. At one point, it's hard to tell who is supporting who. It almost looks like little horn has total control of this whole huge mega beast that is ruling and reigning, pulling the strings. At other times, it almost looks like the beast needs the little horn. So the beast supports little horn, or little horn supports the beast. It's very hard to tell. We have very similar imagery given to us for the mystery Babylon. You have a huge beast in the Revelation, dreadful beast. It has 10 horns. It has 7 heads and 10 horns. It's a huge mega beast. On that top of that, you don't see the horn. You see a woman riding, pulling the strings. Isn't it fascinating? You have a beast dreadful and a woman riding. Here also you have a beast, but the little horn riding are the same? That's a question we have to investigate. Verse 8, I considered the horns, the 10 horns, and behold, there came up among them a little horn, Zair Keren, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, this horn, this small little horn, it has eyes like eyes of man. The word for man is Enosh, like human being, eyes, whatever it is. Like it has a phrase, very interesting phrase. It has eyes of man, which is unlike other 9 horns. This eyes of a man. Eyes always are a representation of wisdom or smartness, super intelligence. In prophetic terminology, perhaps it has more intelligence. Perhaps it has intelligence agencies which surpasses every other country. And a mouth speaking great things. It is rabrab. Rabrab is the Hebrew word used for great things. Great things in English have a positive connotation, but most commentators and most other translations would translate these great things as proud things, arrogant things, mouth speaking blasphemies, mouth speaking arrogant things, mouth speaking against God. That's what we see the pattern. We see the pattern in shadow. We see the pattern here also. Verse 9, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the ancient of the days sit. So here in the vision that is shown to Daniel, the vision progresses sometimes yet far into the future and comes back to the present. So your vision, like the camera moves forward in time and comes backwards to where it started. So here it's going forward, perhaps it's going to heaven and giving us some information there and comes back to earth. It beheld till the thrones were cast down. That means all the thrones, all the kingdoms, the thrones were cast down. So there are no more governments, whatever form of government, they were all cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit. Either it is referring to Christ or the Father. At this point, we do not know. Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. It almost looks like Christ, but it also could represent Father, because Christ is the image of the Father. A fiery stream issued and came forth before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. And the judgment was set, and the books were opened. We see this exact phrase in book of Revelation. Books were open. A great white throne is set. So you are going into heaven. What is happening? While this little horn is parading and killing every Christian that it can find, but in heaven, something else is happening. This is all dismantled, and the kingdom would be given to the saints. Isn't it fantastic? The positive messages are embedded even in the visions. Verse 11, I beheld then because of the voice of the great Rabrab, proud words or arrogant words, which the horn spoke. I beheld even till the beast Kahe was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning of the flame. Here it's a very interesting thing. Here he was watching the little horn. The little horn is keren in Hebrew. So he was watching the horn, keren. Then I beheld even till not keren. Here, Kahe. Kahe, the beast, that is the fourth dreadful beast, was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. So I always thought for many years, I thought this beast was same as the little horn. It is not. It is the horn he is watching. Then he sees the fourth dreadful beast was slain and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. So you can make a case that when the supporting huge mega beast, the world empire superpower, when it is destroyed, the horns are also would be destroyed. That's a fair assertion, I think. So together they are destroyed, perhaps. Because the woman riding the beast in Revelation, the mystery Babylon, she would be burnt. Her body would be destroyed. So you have similar phraseology. As concerning the rest of the beasts, see, the other three beasts, you have the lion, leopard, and bear. Those three beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. So the fourth beast is destroyed, and the perhaps the little horn was destroyed, but still there could be few months or years before at the second coming. So these beasts would continue little bit in their diminished form, not as superpowers. That's what Daniel tells us. And I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. Here it is obvious, like Son of Man, Christ, was brought to the Ancient of Days, perhaps Father. He was brought before him. So we don't know when this is happening. Is it parallelly happening while the little horn is parading to kill Christians, or is it a different time happening in heaven, perhaps at the first resurrection of Christ? Immediately after that, uh, it's more likely it happened in the first century, immediately after his resurrection. He went to the God the Father and presented himself, and he was coronated. And there was given him dominion, this is coronation, glory, and kingdom, and that all people, nation, and languages should serve him. And his dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom which shall not be destroyed. Actually, this more possibly it happened immediately after his resurrection. He declared that all the power and authority in heaven and earth were given to him. He declared it. So this probably fulfilled then, but this information is given to Daniel as a positive, encouraging note for Christians while the persecution is in progress on earth. He was crowned in heaven. The dominion was given to him on earth, but he was not coronated on earth. That happens after the second coming. He will be coronated and recognized as King of Kings on earth after all the thrones were cast down, all the other thrones, and the kingdom would be given to the people or saints of Most High. I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my body. The visions of my head troubled me. And I came near. Here is the interesting thing. He's still in the vision. He came near unto one of them that stood by in the vision, asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made me know the interpretation thereof. So he's in the vision, interacting with the people in the vision. So here he gets the explanation from that angelic being in the vision. These great beasts, Kahe, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth. We actually see they're not single kings, they're dynasty of kings. Kings in the sense, in a broader sense, they are dynasties. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and even forever and ever. So this is everlasting kingdom is given to the saints. It's a hope God is renewing us with hope while the little horn is killing us. Verse 19, then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, that is Kahe, which was diverse from all others, exceedingly dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, his nails of brass, which devoured and broke in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, before whom 3 fell. Here the angelic being is telling about the vision. We saw this material in the vision by writings of Daniel. Now, the explanation, interpretation of the Simeon is given by the angelic being. That's why there is an overlap. So he's referring even to that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spoke very great things, Rabrab, whose look was more stout than his fellows. He's bigger, smarter, powerful. He's different from rest of the 10 horns, or at least 7 surviving horns. That's what it says. Angelic being is telling us. I beheld the same horn and made war. I beheld And the same horn made war with saints and prevailed against them. This is very important statement we are seeing, angelic being. The little horn is making war against saints, against people of God, and prevailed against them. It is defeating. We see the same phrase in Revelation 11, verse 7. It is making war against 2 witnesses and prevailed against them, overcame them, and killed them there. We see mouth speaking great things at different places. Daniel 11, we have the king of north and king of south. Here, king of north, the king shall do according to his will. That is Daniel 11, verse 36. He shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done. So he does exactly same thing. He opens his mouth against God and blasphemes. He magnifies himself. This pattern matching for little horn for the king of the north. Perhaps it's talking about same entities. These phrases help us to harmonize them. We also see similar pattern in Revelation 13 about this beast. Revelation 13, verse 4. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. 42 months. This something mimics the little horn here in Revelation 13. Continuing back to Daniel 7, verse 22, until the Ancient of Days came and the judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possess the kingdom. So God is moving according to his own timetable. Now God says the time has come now for the saints to possess the kingdom. And thus he said, the fourth beast, Kahe, shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all the kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth. See, here the fourth beast is dreadful and terrible. Its scope is global. It is not a regional power. It's entire inhabited earth. It has dominion. Whole earth, and shall tread it down and break in pieces. It can prosecute anybody in any other country. It has such a big superpower. It has intelligence, it has military capability, it has political tentacles. It can prosecute anybody that opposes it and bring them back to its host country from anywhere in the world and prosecute them in its own courts. Is this happening today? And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise. Still, this angelic being is telling us, another shall rise after them, that is the little horn, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. We have already seen that. He shall speak great words against Most High. So here we are seeing the same pattern, and shall wear out saints of the Most High. It will declare war and wear out and think to change times and laws. They shall be given into his hand. So the saints would be given into his hands, the little horn's hands, until times, and half a time, a dividing of time. So there is a certain allotted period of time we would be trodden down. The true temple would be trodden down. Verse 26, but the judgment shall sit. So judgment shall sit in heaven. They shall take away his dominion to consume and to destroy it until the end. So the little horn is toast. Verse 27, and the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. Hitherto is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my cogitations much troubled me, and my countenance changed in me, but I kept the matter in my heart. Thus, the end of the scripture, Daniel 7, will just capture the points for the little horn in reality, not shadow. We have so far seen it comes out of the 10 horns of the head of the fourth beast. It uproots 3 of the 10 horns. It has eyes of a man. It has mouth speaking great things. Its look was stouter than its fellows. It made war with saints and prevailed against them. 10 horns are 10 kings. It is diverse from the rest of the horns. It shall speak words against Most High, wears out saints of Most High, thinks to change times and laws. Saints will be given into its hands for a time, times, and half a time. Judgment will sit and take away its dominion, consume and destroy it unto the end. So this is the fate of the little horn. And during its reign, nobody can challenge it. It's unchallenged power. For the times, and half a time, it reigns terror on the earth among the true church. True church was terrorized, but it meets its final fate. It is consumed and destroyed, but the kingdom is given to the people of the Most High. That brings us to the end of the presentation. We will open the room for discussion, feedback, and I greatly appreciate your contribution to the subject.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking about all this magnificent detail that's being given here, and how Daniel was given this revelation. This vision is a revealing of things to come. And we see the same thing with Joseph and his dreams. He didn't ask. Joseph didn't say, "Oh, Lord God, reveal to me the future." Daniel didn't pray the prayer of, "Please provide me extraordinary revelation." So God selected this individual, Daniel, to receive these things, first to interpret Nebuchadnezzar's dream. And now this is at the time in Daniel 7 and 8 is the time of Belshazzar, right? This is his grandson, Nebuchadnezzar's grandson. So isn't it something that certain individuals are selected throughout biblical history to receive these extraordinary things that we don't really see too many other people getting this kind of a vision? Now, I know Ezekiel had some visions and some of the other prophets, but it seems like Daniel's visions stand out. They stand alone concerning more details about these beasts and how Daniel blends with Revelation so much more than some of the other prophets. But I noticed when you were writing down a list of characteristics of the little horn, that you didn't necessarily go to 2 Thessalonians and add those. Is that because you don't believe that the man of sin that goes into perdition in 2 Thessalonians, do you believe that this is a separate incident and separate person? Or do you think it's referring to the same?
For me, it is very similar in patterns. I'm leaning towards them being the same.
Okay. When you compile a list of characteristics, you could add in some of those from 2 Thess as accent.
Yes. Oh, definitely. So we are like, this is third presentation of Little Horn. So in the fourth and fifth, we would add those details from New Testament.
Okay.
In fact, last presentation, I mentioned few pattern matching with Thessalonians. The falling away comes first and the man of sin revealed. And he sits in the holy and declares himself to be God. You have several patterns, but we will tabulate every possible detail into this list, and I'll make one final list for the little horn and then email to everybody that come here.
Okay. Since there's no hands up, I'm going to move on to a second question.
Yeah, sure.
When we talked about the little horn, you mentioned it, the warfare against the saints, and that the little horn tries to kill us spiritually because it's symbolic. These things are not, these prophecies and these revelations are not taken strictly literally, but symbolically by us. Then we have to have a discussion on how are we susceptible, or in what way can we be killed spiritually? What are some of the methods that are used? No, in one place, he says, we are not ignorant of his devices. So there are many devices. And if he's
more than one, yeah.
If he's going to kill us spiritually, then he has to do it on with certain methods of trickery and of delusion, through delusion and that kind of thing.
It's either delusion or deception or persuasion. Some kind of false doctrine is pushed, definitely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead.
There are other ways to die spiritually other than false doctrine. As we see in the book of Hebrews, there's 5 separate warnings concerning 5 separate ways that we can depart from the living God. Mm-hmm. So we can consider that not all spiritual death is through deception, but some of it is through spiritual laziness, through the hardening of the heart. And if we were to review those 5 warnings, we would find the 5 separate dangers that are spiritual dangers. We can do that at another time, but I just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah, we are already seeing several patterns how the spiritual death is caused. The daily is taken away. That's one important thing. Daily is a figure of speech referring to Christ. In Hebrews, as you mentioned, if you turn your back to Christ, there is no longer a sacrifice remaining for you, but a fearful judgment waiting for you. So there is one pattern. If you turn your back to Christ, these are unpardonable sins that amounts to losing your salvation. There is another unpardonable sin, that is blaspheming Holy Spirit. This little horn opens its mouth wide and blasphemes against Most High and against heaven and those who dwell in heaven once you come to Revelation. So that's another possibility. And it would cast the truth to the ground. That is, no words of Christ, no core teaching of the new covenant. Either prevent it or take it away from people of God. And also people, it casts down the stars of heaven and the host of heaven. Those are two important phrases. Host of heaven and stars of heaven is an illusion for physical Israel and physical Judea. Now, in spiritual layer, for us, it's a representation of true church. When we are in Christ Jesus, whoever is in Christ Jesus, ye are seated in heavenly. That's a plain scripture. So we're seated in heavenly. Our affections are in heaven. We are no longer on earth. But here, the host of heaven are cast to the ground. The stars of heaven were cast to the ground. That means we are no longer in Christ. When we are no longer in Christ, we are no longer in heaven dwelling, but we are brought down to earth. We have similar phraseology in book of Revelation. This dragon has a tail that swept third of the heaven, host of the heaven, brought them down to earth, cast them to the earth. So that's another scenario. Everything revolves around Christ, either his teachings or his person or his examples or his warfare, coming back to the epistles of John discussion. So that's where our main life, our lifeline, life supply is cut off. That's cut off from Christ. And the abomination, desolation is something very big with the little horn, especially in shadow. It removes daily and causes the abomination, something else it replaces. Like this guy, Antiochus Epiphanes, he removes the true altars and puts pig on that and puts another altar on God's altar and sacrifices swine. So we have to think in terms of that. We have to offer spiritual sacrifices which are well pleasing to God. But if you put something equivalent to a pig, it's abomination. It's a smoke to his nostrils. So that far I can think of, but I would welcome if anybody has more insight into this subject, how it can kill us spiritually. It will kill us physically also, but that is less concern at this time.
Well, Tagore, maybe we would, at some point along the way, want to do a review of those things that kill people spiritually, and maybe spend one whole session just on that. Because
sure.
because war against the saints is such a big part of the material you're covering. We might want to have some reminders of what that war looks like and how to wage that war.
Okay, so I think logically we will finish off vet all the scriptures of the little horn. At least 2 more presentations I'm seeing, 2 or 3. After that, we will dive into this, how it can kill spiritually, based on what we have studied and learned. Would that sound reasonable?
Yeah, it would. And I think one of the important facts is that people have been waging warfare for 2,000 years as Christians, and that many people have been fighting it over the centuries, people that we don't even know about. But some of them we do know about. And it's not something that's only for the end of the age, but it's a war that's been ongoing that may intensify at the end of the age. But anyway, yeah, that'd be good. When you're finished up with that, we could maybe have a look at Christian warfare.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, let's go to Marlene.
Yeah, I think that would be good. You gotta hit your key there.
Yeah, I would. I could find it.
Where's your, it's just, we're trying to get our computers here. There we go. Okay, see if I can remember what I was gonna say now. Yeah, I think that's a good idea to talk about all the warfare and how that is. And Christ warns us about deception, not to be deceived. And I was talking with a lady earlier this weekend. She was talking about the memory, how you remember things differently, even though you're in the same room and doing the same thing and same experience, but your memory of what was there and happening was different. And even our perception on how we see things, you can be so easily deceived about things. Read the same article, come away with totally different perception of what was said. Be in an incident and come away with totally different perceptions. So I think deception is a thing that's going to take people out. We've got to be so keen and so focused on what God says that we just follow whatever he says, regardless of what situation we're in. But I was also thinking in Matthew 24, where it says that, if he's out in the wilderness, don't believe it. People say he's come, where are the other places? Let's see.
He is in inner chambers.
Or the secret chambers, don't believe it. And I'm thinking, well, where is this desert? And why are you not supposed to go there? Is that tie in with the beast and with those things that are going on, that you don't go there? Otherwise, what's the problem with going out and seeing what's in the desert? You're obviously going and looking for something that could be false, something or other, taking you out. So, it's amazing how Christ is telling us these things, don't believe that, which means people are going to believe that. So again, deception, I think, is going to be one of the big things that we're going to get hit with.
Yeah, the church would obviously be underground then because of the severe persecution and Bible being banned and Christianity being banned. And they're ready to press charges of insurrection or sedition on you. So church would go underground. So they have to lure you out to come into the light. So that's one scenario I would see, but there are more than that possibility. I'm pretty sure it will kill us physically if it cannot kill spiritually. So the primary target is to kill us all spiritually, so that we don't make it into kingdom, no salvation for us. If we somehow, with our prayers, with the grace of God, we don't let that happen, then they will be wroth with us, angry against us. So they come and kill us anyways, the demon spirits. So that's one of the possible scenarios. But each case each stage, God can stop and protect some people who are crying and sighing for the abominations of the world. For them, they are marked with an ink, so that the sword shall not touch them. Very similar, like the locusts when they come for torment 5 months, the inhabitants of earth. Those who are sealed are spared from these scorpion-like bites, from the spiritual scorpions. There is some people, those are supernaturally protected. And he talks about Jezebel, spiritual Jezebel. Those who are in bed with her, he will cast them into great tribulation. But those who recognized Jezebel and kept away from the adulterous Jezebel, kept themselves pure spiritually, they will be spared. So there are some that are spared, it's scriptural, but majority of us would go through persecution, martyrdom, and this is the agency that is designated at the end time. Many people will say Catholic Church. Catholic Church was definitely a sinister kind of thing, at least in the past, not now. In the Middle Ages, it killed a bunch of Christians and burned them to stakes. Even as late as 1800s, 1700s. But now, at least we are 300 years past from Catholic Church prime rulership. So we are now getting closer to second coming. If we are, then we would be seeing fourth dreadful beast, as well as the little horn, at least in preparation. Because news is suppressed, perhaps the large-scale killing of Christians are already in progress. Who knows? Maybe it hasn't touched the Americas yet. Much of the information is suppressed now. You really don't know what's happening. So that's another scenario. If the book of law is found, it is confiscated and people are punished. That happened in shadow at Epiphanes. Yes, Tom?
Actually, Marlene, we're using Tom's computer.
Oh,
You mentioned about being killed physically, but not spiritually. And not too long ago, when they had the Muslims had these men lined up in their orange suits, they're going to take their heads off. There's an example of they won spiritually. The battle, they were not going to let these enemies take them out and have the victory. So that's an example of them conquering the evil. We're not going to give in to your evil thing, and we're going to give up our life. And we won because we won spiritually, even though they lost their head. So,
yeah, if there is a trade-off, we would trade physical death to retain to keep us away from spiritual death. We want to live spiritually, so we don't mind dying physically. That's the trade-off. Antiochus Epiphanes, what he did was recorded by Josephus. But more Christians are doing research into this. They find very fascinating things about the Antiochus the Great, probably grandfather of Antiochus Epiphanes. He was also equally sinister. Like, he is like peaceful guy. He flattered and became friends with Judeans. They encouraged Jews to come and join the Greek world, be part of us, accept our culture, accept our sports, accept all these races, all kinds of things. So many Jews lost their religion, their status, their standing with God, because this guy lured them So that's also, they see a pattern for the little horn. The whole dynasty of Antiochus have each king has a different aspect of little horn. That's what they are seeing. I think I mentioned in the first presentation, wrestling was the most popular sport in those days, in 300 BC. And wrestlers were naked when they wrestle, and everybody in the stadium would be watching, shouting, yelling. And the Judeans, because they are circumcised, they were spotted as Jews, like Hebrews, like that was low status. So because of this Antiochus first guy, what the Jews would do is they have a special surgery. I don't know how much surgical technology they have. They can undo their circumcision, physical, and become like normal Gentiles and participate and become celebrities of wrestling. So there's a pattern where your circumcision is made uncircumcision. You reverse the circumcision because of the lures and the rewards and the pride of life of this cosmos, this world. It lures Christians. The equivalent is the circumcision of heart. You give away your circumcision, your truth, and you uncircumcise yourself. That's another pattern that we lose our salvation. You lose truth and lose salvation, or you lose your fruits. You are bearing fruit, but you have to bear fruit, and fruit should remain until the last breath, until the end. Your faithfulness should remain until the end. So your faith can be challenged and compromised. That's another scenario. And another interesting thing is when the transgressors are full, when the transgressions are full in Judea, the little horn arrives unseen. Has it something to do with the transgressions in true church or the falling away? That's a question. Let's go to Gail. Gailin.
Hello.
Hi.
Um, I was just thinking, there are many antichrists, but the one that has risen, of course, there's like Hitler that rose recently, but at the present now, we have to look to the eyes of Israel and what's happening to her or in the area. And I don't know if it's the religion that has to be looked at to see the Antichrist, because if it is the religions of the world, then in Israel, the one that hates Israel the most are those with Islamic faith. And then the Islamic faith says God has no son. So that in itself is already an antichrist statement, because in our belief, God has a son, and that's Yeshua, Jesus Christ. So we don't even have to go far away to the past, but now we're in the present, and this is what is going on. And Islam is expanding. Even in Europe, they don't. I don't know if you knew this YouTube video that in 25 years, Europe will be Islamic with no bullets being fired, no sword being, because it's just the population. I mean, yeah, the Europeans don't want to have children or one or two, but the Muslims who just came in recently and even before, they have 10 children, not 6, 4, maybe that's the least, but they're populating Europe now. And what will happen in a few years if there's no more Christians in Europe? So, and also, they also are fighting a different fight. You're talking about souls being bought, and that's happening because pastors, and even before, just a Christian worker wanting to go to work in the Middle East. Okay, if you want to be better off or have an easier life, here's 10,000 or a bribe money. Change your religion to our religion. And even the pastors are told, okay, if you can convert a bishop, we can give you 500,000 pesos. I don't know what kind of currency, but that's the going rate. So even in Islam, they have a fight that's going on here in the Philippines for since even before or during the 1500s because of what happened to Spain, and it affected us, and the fight is still on. But now the Muslims are not using guns or swords. They're using politics, schools, brainwashing people. There was a time that I have a nephew there in the US, and he said, oh, Muslims are nice people. They're good people. And I had to tell him, you don't know your history. Our island, people were abducted. They were kidnapped and sold to slavery. Is that being a good Muslim? So, these are the things that's happening now. We do know like the world order or other stuff, but maybe they're all like the 3-in-1 world order, the religion that's going to be just one. So things are wrapping up quite soon. Just thank you for the.
Thanks, Gailen. Radical Islam is really a force to be counted. We can't issue a blanket statement that all Muslims are wicked, violent, but the radical Islam, which yeah, they are
Yeah.
possibility.
The radical Islam here in the Philippines, it's no longer, we have a ceasefire. Okay, we have a ceasefire, but from the outside, they're coming in and they're showing the radicalism, the Marawi War, where the Muslims from here accommodated the ISIS men without realizing that they're evil, that they will destroy the whole town. And so that's how we're trying to tell them, you have to be careful that doesn't come into our country again. So, and I do know and believe that the Lord is changing hearts because of the 200 Gaza. There's a YouTube video saying 200 of them had the same dream at the same time about Yeshua. It's just a few days ago that it was given out. So I haven't even seen the whole article of it, just a small snippet. So the Lord is moving, and it's harvest time. Thank you.
Thanks, Guyleen. Any other comments, patterns that you see? Yes, Alan. Good
looking
night,
at-
Willard.
I'm
We will
looking-
record this for you. Yes, Alan.
I'm looking at the little horn in both chapter 7 and chapter 8,
Mhm.
and each one has some different things said about it. One of them plucks up 3. The other one waxes great, exceedingly, which waxes exceedingly great. So it comes up little, but then it gets great. It means it doesn't stay little.
No, yeah, that's a good observation.
It doesn't remain little, but it becomes exceedingly great towards the north, the south, the east, and the pleasant land. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven. So this little horn in chapter 8 it doesn't stay little.
Yeah.
But the one over in the preceding chapter, in chapter 7, 3 of the first horns are plucked up by its roots. And this horn has eyes like the eyes of a man and a mouth speaking great things. So there's those differences in those two descriptions.
Yeah. If we have, I think we have translation issue. It appears to be a good positive things that this guy is speaking great things. But other translations, they use like arrogant, proud, and blasphemies. Those kind of things I see in most of the verses.
So to speak great things, does that mean great deceptions that people are drawn to? Like it says, people will heap up for themselves teachers having itching ears. If we heap up our teachers to give us deceptions because we have itchy ears, we want to hear things that are smooth. I think the word smooth.
Here it is, verse 11 of Daniel 7, for example. Because of the voice of great words which the horn spoke. See the Net Bible. Then I kept on watching because of the arrogant words of the horn that was speaking. And Alexi is still great words. And then great words, that is Young's literal. So Net Bible, it says arrogant. But you have parallel patterns that it speaks blasphemy, blasphemous things.
So when we say it's a little horn, are we saying it's little by comparison to those around it?
Yes, comparatively to the 10 horns. 10 horns are like medium-sized kingdoms. This comes as a very little tiny from nowhere. And then it grows bigger and bigger. and occupies more land and drives them, pushes them. First it pushes 3, then it grows exceedingly. It is stouter than other 7, more powerful.
But when you start out small,
Yeah,
You-
very
you-
small.
when something starts small, it does not seem to be intimidating, or it doesn't appear to be a threat. So this is part of where the deception comes in. It's a little horn, so nobody pays much attention to it at first, in the beginning of it.
Yeah.
It's discounted as almost insignificant.
Yes or no, scripture is silent. How others are viewing that, other 10 horns are viewing this little horn. But the moment it uproots 3 of them, then probably there was panic among the 7 horns.
Sure. But when it first appears, it has not yet uprooted the others. We don't
That's
know.
correct. That's
we don't
correct.
know, is there, perhaps a span of time? It could be a week, it could be a year, I don't know. But when it first appears, it's small, so people are not necessarily threatened by it. That's part of the
true.
deception.
When Daniel saw it, it springed up from its among the 10 horns, from the same territory, perhaps. The commonwealth, from that this little horn sprang up, and Daniel was watching, and after few years or some time, it first act that it does is uproots 3 of them, and then vision continues. He sees this grow and grow. It prospered and practiced, so it's growing in wickedness, growing in its extent, magnitude, size. It becomes like much bigger comparatively to rest of the 7 horns. This is stouter, more stout than its fellows. That's towards the end. It's unchallenged little horn becoming a bigger horn. And there's a parallel verse in Revelation. When it comes from bottomless pit. It doesn't come naturally from, like most revolutions. You already have people, and they take a revolt against existing kingdom, and there is a separatist movement, and they declare themselves a separate nation, and that's how nations are born. That's a natural process. Like you build your army or a militia, and then take over the territory and declare yourself a new kingdom, a new king, a new flag. That's how the kingdoms are born. But this guy comes from bottomless pit and goes into perdition. So it has slightly different pattern. Here Tom is saying, I think how BLM movement grew from almost nothing and grew across entire nation just recently. That's a good example. There's a Black Lives Matter. So here the hint that it is from bottomless pit is heavy demonic, almost demons are camping there and starting this new horn. It's very unlike any other naturally born nations. That's what I'm seeing. It's hard to explain, but the phraseology is it comes out of bottomless pit, which is not physical, and it goes into perdition. Let's go to Rita. Hi, Rita.
Hi, Tagore. Thanks again for your presentation. I just have a question on the bottomless pit. In Revelation 11 verses 7, is that the same bottomless pit in Revelation 20?
It should be same Greek word is used called
Okay.
abusas. Typically, it should be translated into English as abyss, but King James have their own fancy phrases, bottomless pit.
Mm-hmm.
Abusas, the Greek word abusas means it's very deep. You don't know how deep it is. It's a construct that is telling it is very deep. So King James guys thought we should take away bottom from it. So make the deep infinite. I don't know what went on in their minds. Bottomless pit. That's a strange construct. But abusas comes from a plus bathos. Bathos in Greek means deeper thinking. For example, bathos is used for God. When you have spirit of God, you begin to understand God better. And but spirit of God reveals God in a more deep ways because it searches deep things of God. The spirit of God, while revealing God to us, it brings out deeper things, deeper. The word bathos is used there. Bathos means it doesn't have that depth. A means alpha, negative, negation. Very deep is not very deep, but bathos is like amoral, not moral. So that construct is there in Greek, a plus bathos, abusas. That's the Greek word. It's a strange word. We find it in Genesis first chapter, the first occurrence of that word. You remember, I can show you that. That's most people don't think that it is there in Genesis 1, first chapter. Here, are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and earth, and the earth was without form and void. That is tohu and bohu, or bohu and tohu. And the darkness was upon the face of the deep. The word deep is bottomless pit. So that is in Greek Old Testament Septuagint. So here the darkness was already hovering over the bottomless pit. So you have bottomless pit in Genesis 1:1. When the story began, you have God, heaven and earth he's creating, but the earth was without void and tohu bohu, implying it's in the disturbed or distracted state. And you also have darkness. It's a figure of speech for devil, demonic things. They were there, and they were there on top of this bottomless pit. And the Spirit of God was moving upon the face of the waters. So this is the setting stage for us for Genesis 1:1. So it sets the stage, and then you find the action. God said, "Let there be light." God saw the light. God called. So you have lots of steps of creation, but this is the stage is set for us. So that is bottomless pit.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So the coming out of bottomless pit, this little horn is not natural, it's supernatural. But we have a heavy play of demonic beings in Rome, Greece, and Persia. We have Prince of Persia, Prince of Greece. All these kingdoms have some demon spirits powerfully motivating and influencing at least leadership, the governments. But here the little horn is from scratch. It's wholly demonic. The circumstances, the people who plan, and the way it comes out, it's unparalleled, and it is one of the modern nations. You have a lot more when we come to Revelation studies, fully into Revelation. It has a lot more characteristics. The beast that was and is not shall ascend. So this beast that was existed long time ago, everybody knew, and then it was no longer for quite some time, quite some years or centuries. This nation was not there, and then it arises of the bottomless pit and shall go into perdition. It is of eighth, even of seven. It's eighth. And that makes war against saints. It does kill a bunch of them. I know Muslims are radical Islam is resisting gospel work in several countries wherever they are majority. They don't let Christians come and preach gospel. That is true, but it is also true for Islam in general, that includes radical Islam. If anybody blasphemes against Christ, Yeshua, Jesus Christ, if he says one bad word, they will chop off his head. You can't blaspheme against Christ or God for that matter. But here, little horn opens its mouth wide, blaspheming against Christ primarily, and also God. So, and also little horn comes as a small and grows big. Islam is big. It's there for quite many years. It's not an end time entity rising. Is it killing Christians? Yes. Just killing Christians would not qualify an entity to be little horn. That's why we are going and building up this big list. All these factors should somehow be satisfied in an entity, if we want to call that as little horn. I think I see similar to BLM. There's something similar to BLM. Overnight, you see this guy coming. Any other comments you have? We're closing 10:15 here. Next presentation, I want to spend some time on King of North and King of South, because he has matching patterns, open his mouth wide with blasphemies. And we will then go to move on to Revelation perhaps. So another couple, 2 or 3 presentations on little horn. Then we would come back to Revelation 11 and tie these things up to the two witnesses, our main topic anyways. And then we will continue with Revelation 11 about the two witnesses. So if nobody has comments, we will call it as night then.
I got something I'll say. Today I was listening to a radio broadcast and they were talking about a new agreement that is being made in Europe. And it's going to be in agreement with the United States that they'll have jurisdiction over the internet to begin clamping down more on the information that's permitted to be on the internet. And that way they will prevent misinformation from spreading. So this kind of power is, it seems, would have something to do with controlling what you're allowed to hear and say. That kind of censorship is a clamping down of it's a draconian, as they call it, draconian control over the masses, and so that they can eventually weed out conservative Christian broadcasting and prevent the gospel from being on the airwaves over time. But even though that may very well happen, I think when we study all of Revelation and all of prophecy, we have to remember that we are not given over to fear. We have not been given a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind, as Timothy said, as he writes to Timothy. So these are fearful things, that these imagery and the concepts of total control, of not being able to buy or sell, of being persecuted in a variety of ways. These are fearful concepts, but as Christians, we should be able to look at these things without having fear overcome us. We can't live fearful lives, but we should still be able to look at prophecy at the same time.
That's very true. Like, fear is not the object. That's not the goal of studying the prophecy. And God gave us so that we take steps to identify these patterns and identify the little horn, because that would affect our salvation. So we can take steps to keep ourselves away from this little horn and some of the tricks.
Yes.
That's the benefit, right?
But I think it's also it's tricky, because as we study these things, they're ominous. They're very mysterious forces. They're demonic forces. They're powerful, and they do kill some.
Yeah.
So our natural human reaction is going to be fearfulness in the face of such opposition. But Christ says, do not fear those who can kill the body, but those who can kill the body and soul. And so his comment is, fear of dying is not a good thing. It's not. We ought not to be obsessed with fear of death.
No,
So-
when the actual things play out, it's very hard how we would react. Like, a couple of our friends who are Christians were already arrested and taken out. We haven't heard about them. That was 3 months ago. And now 3 months over, what kind of heart do we have? What kind of anxiety? The uneasiness. Who is next? Who is next? After 3 months, you see another family being rounded up by secret police. Then after 6 months, then 3 months, 2 months, next month. That would generate lots of terror lots of anxiety, lots of stress. We are not used to that kind of stressful times, at least in US.
Right.
Because we have no experience of that kind of persecution people see in Eastern countries, Middle Eastern countries.
Yep.
So our faith should stand. It should not fail.
Yeah. So Christ said to Peter, I have prayed for you that your faith fail not.
That's the thing. I think we should be praying that our faith would not fail. I think it looks to me it is more of deception than physical killing. Because physical killing, demons would not be accomplishing their goal much. It's already a loss for them. If they can kill a person spiritually, it's more in lines of their accomplishment. So they try every trick to move you away from source of life, that is Son of God. So if you know the strategy, if you know where your life is, then you would try to protect. So here the knowledge is very important. The understanding, discernment are super important when you come to battlefield. How much discernment we need. We should be seasoned like fathers in epistles of John. We should be seasoned in discerning spirits, discerning men and women, discerning matters, and discerning the times. We have a lot more things to discern simultaneously. And we have Antiochus Epiphanes, we have Daniel 2, we have Daniel 7, Daniel 8. We have whole book of Daniel, whole book of other prophets. We have lots of scenarios how these things would unfold in the shadow. And we have reality waiting for you. You're not caught by surprise. You're expecting things and you know how to work out. You know how to protect yourself, your soul and your salvation. That is the idea, not to protect ourselves being martyred. That's not the idea. So prophecy, I think, definitely helps us to protect our salvation, to do your part. In Revelation, there is a huge statement that says, spirit of prophecy is Jesus Christ. Yeah, I think I have this. Revelation 19 verse 10, for the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. Jesus Christ, Yeshua, is witnessing, giving us a testimony through the prophecy. So that's part of the instruction, Revelation 19:10. I always used to think prophecy is something about future. So it doesn't really interested me when I was thinking of that it's purely future foretelling, but it is not so. It is salvational.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree with that. I mean, everything we read throughout all the prophets has a personal aspect for me to consider in my life. Every one of them, whether it's having to do with covetousness or with unbelief, or, there's so many aspects to every prophecy. So it has to do with today and for the future. And we have to view it that way so that the value of it is for us personally and for the vision of hope for the future. So yeah, it's absolutely necessary for us to find all that value and to dig out all that value. in as much as we can. And to
Yeah.
appreciate and to have a deep, abiding appreciation for what is there. Because what's there cannot be fully explored in our lifetime.
Yeah, that is true. But our last breath, how far it is from now, we don't know. Whenever our last breath happens, the next thing is resurrection. We are making sure that we would be part of first resurrection, first fruits. So all these efforts, either epistles of John or Revelation, everything is contributing for our preparing of ourselves. While we work on our sins, spot and blemish removed from bride, made herself ready. So we are making ourselves ready in every possible way. And we are fighting battles now, and the battles get more intense. That's what it is. They get more intense, but now we are not completely free of battle. We have everyday battles, and we are still in war. So that helps us today's warfare also, as you said, now as well as future. So there double benefit from these prophecies. And like in Middle East and other Eastern countries, you don't know when the enemy will come and kill you or persecute you. They have some fear. So that helps them sometimes to stay close to God. But here we have another kind of war in US, because you are well protected. You have to fight complacency and laziness and indifference. These would creep into your spiritual standing with God. So probably you may have to put double efforts to stay hot in these kind of good times. We are almost pampered like no other peoples in the world. This is a big challenge actually for your spiritual fervor. Am I making sense?
Yeah, we live in a time where the material world has made us so comfortable. Our lifestyles are filled with comfort
Hmm.
and entertainment.
Hmm.
And even if we don't work, the government pays for you to have a house and food and medicine.
Yeah.
So we live in a unique age where it's very easy to feel like you don't really have need of anything in a severe way or in a critical way, because everything's provided for us. And for those who have a good career, they get a good paycheck, they can make a budget, and they can live a life of luxury if they stay within their budget. They can live a very, very good life because of the manifold blessings this nation has. So they can be a blessing, or they can be a curse and lull you into lethargy. We can become lethargic because we have need of nothing.
Yeah, especially need for God.
Yeah.
Like David, when he's writing Psalms, he constantly needs God's protection, God's deliverance. There's a constant prayers to God. Sometimes we are not in that mode as David was, because it's so easy. Like it's just routine, easy, and so
yeah, that's the problem with the American or the Western lifestyle, including Europe. We have so much. It works against us.
yeah.
We forget about our neediness and our spiritual weakness. We forget about it, sometimes because life is pretty easy over here.
Mm.
You know, and unless you've ruined yourself and you've become a street
Homeless.
person or a homeless or a drug addict or an alcoholic, or if you're somehow out of control with your behavior, well, then life can be very difficult.
Yeah.
But under normal conditions, you know, we have excesses. Everywhere we look, there's excesses.
I think we should be aware of these things and then fight against the dangers in this country for our setting. We have something to say, Gailin?
Yes. That observation has been um, told me. I mean, okay, so we're in not in the same shoes as you have in your country or the West. And there was once a German young guy, maybe in his 30s, and he went to the Philippines and he said, "How come you're so poor and you're still like happy? And how come you're so religious?" And I said, "Because here you have to pray all the time because of the typhoons. There's no way you can escape it except through prayer and the volcanoes." So those are major two things. The economics, okay, that's um. So and then he said, yeah, I said, in your country, because this is in Germany, I said you have a life of ease. As Alan has mentioned, if you don't have work, there's pension and things like that. And so that's for the whole Europe, what's happening, and the US for those who can afford or who are in. So the struggle to be more religious or to hold on to God is less because there's comfort. And I remember in Rome, the story goes, if I'm not mistaken, that when Rome was its most glorious, it had its amphitheaters, it has its the citizens had the best privileges, and they had everything. And then the taxes started to go up and up, that even the senators cannot afford to have children because of the tax. And that's when started to go down. Plus, they were subsidizing the poor or the less fortunate Roman citizens. So it's a turnaround, and yet what we see is the same pattern as Rome. It's a repeat of history because there is still the Roman influence as a kingdom, as Tigor has mentioned. We are ruled by the calendars of Rome and the days of Rome. Just even those two things can be seen in our daily lives, and the courts, um, the political system, it's still alive. And but yes, things are changing, and it will be quick. And we just have to look to Israel because that's the center of God's, the apple of God's eye, and what's happening there will reflect what is going to happen next. I believe that we just have to watch the Middle East. And as you said, that Islam is now big, but it also started small and it was rejected, and then it became violent, then it became strong. It has Islam has killed more people than Hitler did in World War too. And even I think we don't know the history of India, but I think there's millions who were killed there and other places where if you don't convert, you die. That's their way. So I believe Asia has yet to reveal the history of the Muslims in the area and how so many were killed just for the name of another god that does not believe in God has a son. But as you said that maybe these are like the 10 horns. Maybe we're looking at it from a worldview, but the wrong worldview. Maybe it should be from the world view of the Middle East. I have what's happening there, and like I don't know, is it Arabia or somewhere that the three religions are placed, housed? So I think there's a guy named Joel Rosenberg, and he everything, the epicenter is still the Middle East. So we might look at it at the world order, but maybe it's all mixed up to that. And you're saying from the abyss it comes, and just what the Hamas did is like the abyss. I mean, this recent massacre, they were under drugs. So that's like Hitler's army again. Because how can you kill children, babies, toddlers that way and burn them alive if you were not on drugs? So there is evil in it, really. The terrorist groups. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your insight. Another thing we need to remember, the little horn works behind the scenes. You may still see large factions like BLM or something. You have other killing organizations that do the work outwardly, but behind the scenes, in the secret, this is the force, the little horn. It's hard to discover the little horn because it works by stealth, by the operations are clandestine. That's where the scripture says it takes a while for people to figure out that this is the real killing machine behind the scenes. So there's another aspect we have to remember, but there are a lot more verses we have. Tom says one can be possessed by demons and do evil things, not just on drugs. That is true. There is definitely a demonic thing, super demonic thing for this little horn. It has special attention on true Christians. It doesn't care much about not so true Christians. It has some mechanisms to detect them and to go after them. It has special interest against Christians, true Christians. So it has to be more pure demonic.